Thunder cracked, raw and deafening. Cold rain lashed Seraphina's face as booted guards dragged her across the slick flagstones. Her cloak clung heavy and sodden, the velvet scraping her scraped knees with every frantic stumble. In the torchlit gloom of the Wolfsbane Court's hall, the scent of damp stone and old iron pressed in. Shadows twisted between marble pillars, hiding watching eyes. Seraphina's left wrist burned, the sigil there pulsing brighter, darker, with every panicked heartbeat. A tall man waited atop the dais, broad-shouldered, raven-haired, his amber eyes glinting beneath the storm's distant flicker. Beside him, Lady Mireille's silvery gaze was unreadable, lips curved in a faint, cold smile.
You stand before the Duke of Wolfsbane Court.
His voice was a blade through the hush, final, inescapable.
I won't beg.
Her words trembled, defiant, but fear tangled her tongue.
Begging isn't required, my dear. Only obedience.
From the shadows, Elias's eyes flickered over parchment, fingers blackened with ink. He did not look at her wrist, though all could see the cursed mark swirling there.
The contract is prepared. The sigil accepts no refusal.
Thunder rolled again. The doors thudded shut behind her. A whisper, colder than rain, slithered from the far corner. The voice of a sorcerer unseen.
The moon witnesses. Speak your vow, Seraphina, or be unmade.
The world narrowed to the icy fire etched on her skin, and the Wolf Lord who would decide if she lived or vanished. Cold metal against skin, the silver cord wrapped Seraphina's wrists, biting through velvet and bone-deep chill. Chanting echoes off the black stone walls, every syllable tugging at the mark beneath her pulse. Candle smoke curls bitter and strange, thick with something burnt and old. Nothing in this chamber is alive except the hunger of the ritual itself.
Speak your vow, Seraphina. Do not delay the curse.
The words hang, heavy as chains. Lucian stands beside her, rigid as the columns rising overhead. He keeps his gaze locked on the marbled floor, not a flicker in her direction. The air between them hums with warning, the kind that precedes a storm. At the edge of the circle, Lady Mireille stands motionless. Her pale eyes sweep over Seraphina, then Lucian, weighing, calculating. The silvered silk of her gown shimmers like quicksilver, masking how still she truly is.
I, Seraphina of House Vale, accept this bond. I carry the curse and the court's will for as long as the moon stands over Wolfsbane.
A pulse of heat burns through the sigil on her wrist, the ache radiating outwards, threading through every nerve. The cord contracts, cold and unyielding, as if the castle itself is drawing their fates closer. Lucian's jaw is stone.
I accept.
His voice is stripped bare, neither welcome nor rejection, just ice-laced obligation. Across the ritual circle, Elias captures every breath in ink, quick strokes on parchment. His eyes flick from Seraphina to Lucian, cataloging tension.
The vow is witnessed. The agreement stands.
A gust snakes through a fractured window, bringing with it the musk of rain-soaked earth and the metallic taste of old magic. The candles gutter and spit, shadows lurching over carved wolf heads and iron sconces. Lady Mireille steps forward, presence sharp as frost, close enough for Seraphina to make out the pinpricks of blue beneath her eyes. Not fatigue, but calculation.
You belong to the court now. No one leaves this binding unchanged. Remember that.
Her words press nearer than any hand. The faint scent of crushed violets mixes with the tang of blood from the cord.
I understand.
Mireille's lips twitch, a smile edged with warning.
See that you do.
Lucian's hand drifts to the wolf's head ring at his finger, thumb pressing into silver until his glove creaks. Still, he doesn't look at her. The hollow between them widens.
By curse and covenant, the union is forged. The mists will bind you when memory fails.
The cord uncoils. Seraphina's sigil throbs, slow and relentless, as shadows flicker, and the last of the candlelight gutters, leaving the hall stinking of wet stone and secrets. Lady Mireille lingers, gaze cold, eyes narrowing, measuring Seraphina, staking her claim. Lucien turns on his heel, long coat sweeping a trail through the mist curling across the flagstones. He disappears into the dimness without a word as the walls seem to sigh and settle. The ritual complete, the snare sprung. If you want to hear more, a like, subscribe, or comment helps me keep creating stories like this. Thank you for listening. The castle's corridor stretched before Seraphina, a labyrinth carved from stone and shadow, each step echoing up to the vaulted ceilings. The air brimmed with the scent of old wax, cold flagstones, and something wilder, feral, that clung behind the stately perfume of Wolfsbane Court. Candlelight cast elongated silhouettes, twitching with every draft. Elias led the way, his presence as lean and precise as the silver-framed spectacles perched on his nose. He walked quickly, glancing back only to ensure she followed, the faintest ink marks smudged on his fingers, betraying midnight habits.
Your chambers are in the eastern quarter. The west wing is no place for guests.
He hesitated on the last word, aquamarine eyes opaque.
I wasn't aware I was a guest.
Her tone was cool, but inside, every sense prickled. The sigil on her wrist, veiled by velvet, pulsed with an alien rhythm she couldn't master.
Then consider it a courtesy. For your safety, Duchess.
Footsteps slowed as they neared a massive door banded in black iron. Beyond it, the hallway veered sharply, and Seraphina caught a sliver of the forbidden west wing. Here, the shadows thickened. Windows were shuttered and bolted, their paint peeling like old scabs. The air sharpened, bristling with cold and a coppery tang. From somewhere deep within, a howl fractured the hush. Not the song of a wolf, but something raw, a chord of pain and rage, barely human. Elias flinched. His hand tightened on the keys at his belt.
Do not wander. Some doors here remember old blood.
He turned briskly, guiding her away, but Seraphina's gaze snagged on a flicker in the gloom. A silhouette, hunched and lupine, pausing in one of the west wing's archways. Amber eyes glowed, fixed on her through the dark, then gone. A pulse like ice water ran through her, memory or omen. They resumed their walk, silence tumbling between them, thick as the tapestries lining the walls. Elias fumbled for words, glancing toward the west wing as if it might reach for them.
You're afraid.
I am cautious. There's a difference. This castle devours the reckless.
He stopped at a heavy oak door inlaid with moonstone. A key turned with a metallic sigh. The chamber beyond was drenched in shadow, pale moonlight spilling through gauzy curtains. The scent of violets hung in the air, oddly sweet, almost cloying. Elias handed her a single silver key.
Lock this door. Sleep if you can. The Duke prefers silence after midnight.
His voice, for a second, softened on the word sleep, but he didn't linger. Footsteps faded, leaving only the whisper of his coat. Against stone, Seraphina was alone. The chamber was lovely, but its beauty felt brittle, an opulent cage. Her fingers brushed the carved wardrobe, a cool marble mantle. Something was wrong. The silence pressed in, taut and expectant. As she turned back to the bed, she saw it. A letter, creased and stained, resting atop her pillow. Thick, rusty blotches marred the parchment. The words inside were uneven, written in a hand that trembled between haste and terror. Trust no one, no crest, no signature, only that warning and the unmistakable brown red of dried blood. Her pulse quickened. The candle sputtered, and beyond the shuttered glass the howl came again, closer, as if the walls themselves strained to listen. She pressed the note to her chest, cold seeping into her skin. Was it a threat? A plea? Who knew she was here? Who cared enough to risk this? On the far side of the courtyard, the west wing's shutters rattled. For a moment, she glimpsed the silver flash of a wolf's tail, or perhaps only mist curling in the wind. The sigil on her wrist throbbed, a silent fever. Seraphina moved to the window, breath fogging the glass. As distant howls tangled with the night wind, she did not feel watched. She felt chosen. In the moonlight, the warning burned in her palm, and behind her, in the twisting shadows of the chamber, something shifted. Too soft for the ear, too heavy for a dream. The halls of Wolfsbane Court hummed with a chill that seeped through velvet and bone. Moonlight spilled in fractured ribbons across the checkered marble, catching in the silver embroidery of Seraphina's cloak as she crept along the corridor. She moved quietly, but the castle was a living thing. Its stones seemed to breathe, to listen. Every footstep, every flutter of her pulse threatened to betray her. She had ventured too close to the west wing. She sensed it even before the faint echo of boots on stone, a shadow gliding behind the stained glass, the prickle along her cursed wrist. A voice cut through the silence, deep as winter night.
You should not be here.
Lucian stepped from the gloom, posture rigid, eyes sharp with warning. Candlelight gilded his cheekbone scar, but it was his gaze that caught her, a molten gold, gleaming with something unspoken. For a breath, Seraphina's defiance faltered. She could smell leather, smoke, and something wilder beneath.
I'm not lost. I was only
Curious. That's what you want me to believe.
He circled her, movements precise. His gloved hand hovered above her shoulder, but never touched. The air between them vibrated with silent argument.
The West Wing is forbidden, especially at night.
Why? Because you think shadows will frighten me?
His jaw clenched. The silence stretched thick as velvet.
There are things here even you should fear.
Seraphina's fingers drifted to the swirling mark on her wrist. She held his gaze, refusing to look away, even as his eyes caught the moonlight and flared, not with anger, but with something animal, wild and ancient.
You mean the curse? Or is it you I should fear?
A low sound vibrated in Lucian's throat, almost a growl. For the briefest moment, his mask slipped. His gloved hand pressed hard to the stone banister, knuckles paling. The gold in his eyes burned, not just with warning, but with pain.
You don't understand what this place does, what I become.
His words hung in the air, sharp and aching. From somewhere behind the closed West Wing doors came a muffled howl, long, mournful, impossibly close. Lucian flinched as if the sound cut deep. The moonlight caught the silver wolf's head ring on his finger, glinting like a blade.
You must never open those doors. Not while you draw breath in this castle.
His voice was rough, almost desperate. For a heartbeat, Seraphina glimpsed the man beneath the Duke and the monster entangled with him.
And if I disobey, will you lock me away too?
Lucian's response was halted by another howl, this time closer, Throatier, the castle seemed to tense, as if expecting violence. He stepped nearer, so near she could feel the heat of his breath, see the shudder of restraint beneath his composure.
I would do much to keep you safe, more than you can imagine.
He turned sharply, cloak swirling, retreating into shadow as the great clock in the hall began to chime midnight. A cold gust swept through, snuffing the candle between them. The corridor plunged into darkness, save for the sliver of moon that gleamed on the forbidden doors. A silver fog curled through the disused solarium at Wolfsbane Court, blurring the latticework shadows. The fragrance of damp stone and old jasmine clung to the air. In this hidden alcove, Lady Mireille waited, spine perfectly straight, gloved hands clasped atop her lap, sapphire pendant cold against her skin. Candlelight flickered on the marble, casting elongated shapes behind her. A door whispered shut. Footsteps echoed, crisp and measured. Elias emerged from the gloom, his spectacles glinting, deep blue brocade faintly catching the light. Ink stained the edges of his fingers. Even his careful composure couldn't mask the tension that lingered between them.
You risk much, sister. The whole West Wing is restless tonight.
Mireille didn't look at him at first. She watched the mist swirl beyond the glass voice, as even as the moon.
Risk is a matter of calculation. I see only opportunity.
A breath of chill crept into the solarium, making the candle flames shudder. Elias's gaze sharpened, aquamarine eyes searching her face.
You mean Seraphina. You think the curse can be turned, bent to our purpose.
Mireille's lips curved, almost fond. Her words clicked together, precise as chess pieces.
Not bent, unleashed. Lucian keeps the duchy caged in shadows, but the curse, given proper direction, could break his iron grip.
Elias hesitated, tracing a finger along a cold marble baluster. His voice dropped to a hush.
And the sorcerer? He will not like us meddling. He claims this curse belongs to the bloodline, not to us.
Mireille's gaze flicked to her brother, the candle's glow sharpening the fine arch of her brow.
The sorcerer serves power. He wears secrecy like a second skin. If Seraphina's suffering loosens Lucian's hold, why would he interfere? Unless he fears what I intend to do when the time comes.
Elias's breath misted the air. For a moment, the only sound was the far-off, mournful howl of a wolf in the forest.
You play a dangerous game. If Seraphina falls, if Lucian breaks, who will take the throne?
Mireille rose, silk whispering the facets of her pendant catching the cold light. Her eyes reflected the candle flames, calculating, fathomless.
Wolfsbane Court has been governed by fear long enough. If there's a void, nature abhors an absence.
A pocket watch chimed the hour, faint and distant. Mireille paused at the threshold, her silhouette etched against the wavering glow.
Ensure our guest is watched. If Seraphina seeks answers, let her find only what I wish her to know.
She slipped through the door, leaving the solarium colder, emptier, a single candle guttering in the fog as the first low notes of midnight's bells began to toll. Night pressed against the windows of Wolfsbane Court, turning the West Wing's corridors to a labyrinth of blue-gray shadows. Seraphina's footsteps barely disturbed the hush, her cloak brushing the ancient wainscoting. She stole past a series of shuttered doors, each one promising secrets, her pulse quickening with every step, into forbidden territory. A draft curled from beneath a warped door, iron tang cutting through the lingering scent of candle smoke and old stone. Deeper, a low resonance, not quite voices, yet more than the sigh of the wind. It pulled at her, teasing her down the endless passage. Her fingers traced the cursed sigil hidden beneath her sleeve, its faint warmth, a warning and a dare. The sconces here were unlit, Pale moonlight spilled in fractured strips, casting her elongated shadow ahead of her. At the far end stood a door heavier than the rest, banded in black iron, its keyhole rimmed with silvery marks. The wood wore deep gouges, as if clawed by something desperate. Her breath tightened. She pressed her ear to the cold panel. From within, a low, guttural growl, then silence. The iron musk was overpowering, mingled with wild animal, and something else, something acrid that stung her eyes and throat. Was it Lucian, locked away in his monstrous form? Or something worse? She tried the handle, locked. Her onyx ring thudded softly against the metal. The silence that followed thrummed with tension. A shattered mirror hung beside the door, its edges glimmering like razor teeth in the dark. The glass was slashed through, a spiderweb of fractures radiating from the center, as if a fist or a claw had driven through. Her own reflection stared back in fragments. Pale lips, a single haunted eye, the silver embroidery of her cloak glittering like frost. Heavy footsteps echoed behind her, not servants, too controlled, too deliberate. She drew back, flattening herself against the frigid wall, every muscle taut as a drawn bow.
You shouldn't be here.
Elias's silhouette appeared, wreathed in blue shadow, spectacles gleaming as he stepped into the moonlight. His voice was measured, not harsh, but edged with something sharper than reprimand.
Did you follow me?
I keep track of what matters. I'd advise you, don't linger. The Duke's orders are clear.
And if I ignore them?
He hesitated, eyes flicking to the door and back, his lips pressed thin.
Then you'll find what the rest of us hope to forget.
A pause. From somewhere beyond the locked room, a guttural snarl rolled through the walls. Seraphina's spine stiffened. Elias didn't move.
What is kept in there? Who smashed the mirror?
For a moment, Elias studied the broken reflection, light splintering across his spectacles.
Some truths are ill-fitting for daylight. I suggest you leave before your curiosity turns fatal.
He offered his arm, a formal gesture that seemed out of place in this haunted corridor.
When the night comes, does he change?
Elias's jaw tightened.
Ask the Duke yourself, if you dare. We all bear our own curses here.
His words pressed a chill into her bones, but beneath them, a warning. Whatever haunted this room, it was not contained by locks alone. They hurried back, footsteps muffled by dust and dread. As they reached the threshold of the West Wing, a door creaked open farther down the hall. A shadow, tall, broader than Elias, flickered in the periphery. Lucian's voice followed, deep and unmistakable.
You were told the West Wing is forbidden.
Elias stepped forward, shielding Seraphina with a subtle shift of his body.
She lost her way, Your Grace. I'll see her returned.
For a heartbeat, the hallway crackled with unspoken threat. Lucian's amber eyes glinted. Even in half-light, they seemed to see too much. His gloved hand tightened on the doorframe.
See that you do.
Lucian's gaze lingered on Seraphina, something wild and wounded flickering there. Then, he vanished into the shadows, the echo of his boots swallowed by silence. Elias and Seraphina slipped away, the air behind them now thick with menace and the metallic scent of secrets. In her palm, Seraphina squeezed a sliver of broken glass she'd taken from the shattered mirror, its edge sharp, its surface reflecting only the fractured moonlight. The memory of claws on oak and the silence beyond iron trailed her back to her chamber. But tomorrow, nothing would keep her from returning. The night of the masquerade arrived thick with tension. The castle's grand ballroom awash in ghostly candlelight and the whisper of silk on polished stone. Shadows flickered along the carved walls. Blue smoke curled from silver candelabras, sweet, sharp, almost cloying. The guests were a procession of specters, faces masked and smiles brittle. Seraphina moved among them, her midnight cloak brushing the floor, the cursed sigil beneath her lace glove prickling like an accusation. Every step she took was watched, measured. Somewhere, beyond crystal towers and velvet-draped corridors, wolves howled to the rising moon. Midnight pressed in, slow and inevitable. The great clock's hands trembled, the air thickening with anticipation and secrets. Across the ballroom, Lucian prowled the crowd, his mask wrought of blackened silver, mouth set in a grim slash. Seraphina caught his gaze, amber eyes burning behind the mask, and could not look away. A sudden hush rippled through the chamber. Music faltered, laughter stilled. All eyes turned as Lady Mireille swept into view, luminous in silver, her expression an unreadable mask.
Such a gathering deserves a spectacle. Shall we toast to the moon?
Crystal goblets were raised. Seraphina's grip tightened. The sigil on her wrist throbbed in warning. Elias threaded through the crowd, eyes darting, the sparkle of his spectacles betraying nerves. He paused beside Seraphina, voice pitched low.
Keep watch on Lucian. The moon's at its peak. Anything could happen tonight.
A distant bell tolled. Midnight. The moment froze. Somewhere, the sharp tang of iron sliced through the perfumed air. Lucian staggered, dropping his glass. He gripped the edge of the dais, knuckles bleaching white.
No, not here.
His breath came ragged, the scent of blood and musk radiating from him. Seraphina's pulse quickened, both dread and something darker blooming in her chest. Guests murmured, some craning to see. Lucian's coat strained against his shoulders, the silver wolf clasps snapping. Shadows around him writhed, thickening. His mask tumbled to the marble with a hollow clatter. The change was violent. Bones shifting, fabric ripping. Fur erupted along Lucian's arms, his jaw distending into a snarling maw. The air filled with panic, a woman's scream, the metallic tang of fear. The haunting music died. Seraphina's mind reeled, terror warring with fascination. She should run. She should hide. Yet she surged forward, planting herself between Lucian's monstrous, half-formed shape and the stunned crowd. Her voice was barely a whisper, trembling.
Stay back. He's hurt.
Lucian's eyes, wild, golden, not quite human, locked onto hers. For a moment, the beast stilled, confusion flickering.
Seraphina, I can't control.
The words were jagged, barely human, but she recognized him in the struggle. She reached for him, her gloved fingers brushing the coarse fur at his wrist. Electricity arced between them, his pain, her defiance. The ballroom blurred. Only Lucian mattered now. Only the hunger in his gaze, the agony in his bones. Around them, chaos blossomed. Lady Mireille barked orders above the fray.
Guards, to me! Do not let the beast escape!
Elias darted forward, shielding Seraphina with his slight frame.
This is madness. Seraphina, get away from him.
But Seraphina planted her feet. The curse on her wrist burned, a warning and a promise.
I won't leave him.
Her voice cut through the panic. Lucian, caught between man and monster, staggered to his knees. Blood spattered the marble. The moonlight through stained glass painted him silver and blue, a creature of both nightmare and sorrow. The unknown sorcerer emerged from the shadows, robes trailing, eyes glittering with cold amusement.
So the Duchess chooses the wolf. Fascinating.
In the stunned silence, Lucian looked up at Seraphina, beast's mouth twisted in a silent plea. The crowd pressed closer, driven by horror and morbid curiosity. Seraphina's decision rang with finality. She knelt beside Lucian's monstrous form, wrapping her cloak around him, shielding him from their gaze. Her touch fearless, her own fear transmuted into something fierce and protective. Outside, the wolves of the forest howled as the moonlight poured in, white and cold. The ballroom was an uproar of pained cries, clattering metal, and shattered crystal. In the center, a woman and a beast, locked together beneath the gaze of a pitiless moon. Pale dawn seeped through the high, frost-laced windows of the deserted East Gallery. The castle's hush was deep, broken only by the distant drip of melting ice and the echo of Lucian's boots on ancient stone. Seraphina stood at the window alcove, her cloak pooled at her feet, breath clouding the glass. Shadows spilled in bruised pools across the flagstones, as if reluctant to yield to the day. Lucian stopped beside her, watching her reflection in the warped glass. The cold in the room matched the cold he clung to inside. He hesitated, fighting words he'd long ago buried with the dead.
You should stay away from me.
His voice scraped low, as if he resented the need to speak. Seraphina turned, studying the harsh lines of his profile, the glint of the wolf's head ring on his gloved hand, the brittle defiance in his amber eyes.
After last night, do you truly think I'm afraid of you, or is it pity you fear?
She didn't flinch. The sigil on her wrist throbbed beneath her sleeve, a constant ache. But she would not show weakness. Not yet. Lucian's jaw tightened. Candlelight from a distant sconce flickered over the scar on his cheekbone.
Pity would be a kindness. I'd welcome your contempt if it kept you safe.
He reached up as if to touch her face, but his fingers halted in the air, trembling. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the wind clawing at the leaded glass.
Everyone I have ever loved has died. The curse, it feeds on affection, on hope. My mother, my brother, even the hounds I kept as a boy. The closer they drew, the faster the dark took them.
His confession fractured the silence. Seraphina's pulse fluttered, not with fear, but fierce, unexpected empathy.
So you built these walls of stone and iron. You taught your heart to starve, so nothing else could be lost.
Lucian's mouth twisted. He looked away, staring into the gathering light, as if it might burn the truth from him.
I thought I could bear it, alone. But your presence, it's like an old wound torn open. I can't protect you, Seraphina. Not from this.
She stepped closer, silken skirts whispering over the cold slab floor. In the hush, she tugged her sleeve up, bearing the swirling sigil on her wrist. The mark churned with faint light, its pain sharp and familiar.
You think you're cursed with death. Mine is worse, to belong to a place that devours hope, to ache with every sunrise, and yet not let go. I wake each morning feeling less human, more shadow.
A shudder rippled through her. Lucian's hand hovered, and this time he let his fingers graze the edge of her sleeve, as if memorizing the shape of her sorrow.
Perhaps loneliness is all that's left for us. Perhaps it's mercy.
A pause. The castle seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere beyond the walls, a wolf's cry thinned and faded.
Or perhaps mercy begins when we confess what hurts us most.
Their hands lingered, not quite joined. shadows overlapping on the frosted sill. In the cold dawn, grief hung between them, and yet something else, fragile as the new light. Lucian closed his eyes, voice no more than a rasp.
I can never love Seraphina, not without blood on my hands.
Beyond the glass, mist curled over the black forest, swallowing the sun before it could fully rise. The library's forgotten west wing was steeped in midnight, iron candelabras casting wild shadows over cracked marble tiles. The air was thick with incense, dark musk, and bitter herbs. Mireille, silver silk gown trailing behind her, knelt inside a chalk-drawn circle. Symbols scrawled in ink glittered wetly beneath her gloved hand as she pressed a sapphire pendant to her breast, eyes narrowed with fierce purpose. Elias hovered near the doorway, spectacles glinting. He shuffled parchment, hands smudged with ink and trembling.
This is madness, Mireille. If the mark turns on you...
Spare me your nerves, Elias. You know the curse should never have picked her. It is mine by right. Or would you rather see the estate fall to ruin?
She bit out the words, voice taut as a drawn wire. Pale gray eyes flicked to a silver bowl at her feet. Inside, a lock of Seraphina's hair coiled like a serpent. Elias drew in a shaky breath, stepping backwards as the air pulsed cold.
If you fail, the sigil could bind to anyone in the castle, even Lucian, or me.
Thunder rumbled beyond the stained glass windows, rattling ancient book spines. Mireille sliced her palm, blood welled, black in candlelight. The unknown sorcerer's voice echoed from the corridor, low and urgent.
You tempt disaster, lady. Bargains made in hunger end in famine.
His shadow stretched long and unnatural. Mireille hesitated, then let her blood drip onto the swirling chalk lines. As the drops hit, the circle flared blue. A sharp, metallic scent slashed through the incense. The sigil's shape shimmered above the bowl, so close she could taste the iron. Elias stumbled, catching a shelf for support. Mireille's jaw clenched. The air snapped with magic, bitter and electric. For an instant, she saw Seraphina's face reflected in the sigil. Then the image twisted, contorting into a snarl. The candles guttered. Footsteps rang in the corridor. The door swung open. Seraphina stood framed in silver moonlight, gown streaked with rain, eyes wide with suspicion.
What have you done?
Mireille jerked upright, blood smearing her wrist. The ritual's circles sagged, lines bleeding into nothing.
It was necessary. For all of us.
You tried to steal it. My curse. Why?
A charged silence, tense as the moment before a storm breaks. In the wavering candlelight, the sigil's glow faded, leaving only the acrid scent of burnt paper and secrets. A single drop of Mireille's blood trembled on the marble, refusing to fall. A storm prowled the castle walls, each rumble of thunder clawing through the stone like the memory of old wounds. Lucian stood alone in the east tower, window thrown open to the wild night, rain threading through silver air to strike his cheek. The world below was a blur of slate rooftops and trembling black pines. Shadows pressed close, as if waiting for him to speak. He gripped the cold sill, leather gloves, damp. He could still taste iron on his tongue, the echo of blood, guilt, the price of every life he had failed to save. Duty, they called it. Protection. Yet his hands felt monstrous in the dark. He saw her, even now, behind his eyes, a woman with laughter like summer wind and sorrow in her eyes. He had loved her, Wren, delicate as dusk, a secret he had never dared utter in daylight. the last night replayed, sharper than any blade. Her smile, uncertain. The warning she tried to offer, the surge of animal hunger he could not quell. His body had become a weapon the moment the curse took root. Not a man, not truly a wolf, but something shunned by both. He pressed his forehead to the icy glass, exhaling fog. A tremor ran through the room, ancient, bone deep. Lucian remembered the night he had knelt before the sorcerer, desperation carving away his pride. The sorcerer's robe had shimmered with runes, eyes violet and fathomless, a whisper threading the candlelit gloom.
You ask for power, little Duke, but power demands a shape. What shape are you willing to wear?
His own voice, younger, raw, with purpose.
Anything. My people are dying. Give me what you must. I will bear it.
The memory fractured. A flash of lightning. The bite of a silver knife across his palm. Black blood falling on the runic floor. The curse latching on, howling within.
Then let the wolf within flourish. Let hunger rule you until the moon forgets your name.
The sorcerer had not lied. Lucian's nights became a blur of violence and moonlight. Each time he clawed his way back into himself, he found another scar. He found Ren, lifeless. He wept over her, beast's blood on his hands, her voice lost to the wind. The world called him Duke, monster, protector. But when dawn came, he was always just a man kneeling in ashes, haunted by what he could not undo. A flicker in the corridor, a scent of ink, the rustle of parchment. Elias lingered at the threshold, aquamarine eyes wary.
You should rest, Lucian. The moon will rise again soon. You're no use to anyone like this.
Lucian turned, his voice flat.
Rest? I destroyed everything that mattered with my need to save this place.
You did what you had to. You made a bargain, not a choice.
Lucian laughed, short and scathing.
Bargains have teeth. I was too blind to see them.
A silence gathered, heavy as the storm. Elias hesitated, then slipped away, leaving Lucian to his ghosts. Beyond the window, the rain sharpened. Somewhere, a wolf howled, not in hunger, but in mourning. Lucian pressed his gloved hand to the glass. The sigil on his ring glimmered, a silver mark of loss. He closed his eyes, feeling the curse coil tighter. The price never paid in full. The storm bled violet through the clouds, and in its flicker Lucian saw, for an instant, the sorcerer's shadow on the far parapet, watching. The thunder rolled, and the night swallowed the Duke's regret. The castle's heart was hollow that night. Shadows pooled at the base of the great marble staircase, swallowing the candlelight and muting every footfall. Somewhere above, a storm rattled the stained glass, painting fragments of moonlight across the mosaic floor. In the deepest reaches of Wolfsbane Court, the air tasted of iron and old secrets. A single lamp flickered at the end of the servants' corridor, throwing Mireille's silhouette long and haunted on the wall. Her gloved hand trembled as she pressed a hidden latch behind a tapestry. The door yielded with a reluctant groan, revealing a spiral staircase twisted with dust and chill. Her brother was waiting at the bottom. The chamber was cold, stone walls slick with moisture, the ceiling lost in darkness. Elias stood surrounded by circles of salt and chalk. Glancing up from his scattered notes, ink still wet on his fingers.
Mireille, you said you had news. Is it done?
He tried to sound composed, but each word quivered. He adjusted his spectacles, the silver frames catching a glint of candlelight. Behind him, A hooded figure lingered in the gloom. The sorcerer, silent as a spider in its web.
It is nearly done, brother.
Her voice was too calm. She crossed the threshold, skirts whispering over flagstones.
What are you... Wait, why is he here?
Elias's gaze darted to the sorcerer, then back to his sister, dread blooming in his aquamarine eyes.
You sought answers, Elias. Tonight, you'll have them. And more.
Elias stepped back, shoes scraping. The salt line seemed to pulse, trapping him.
Mireille, this isn't what we agreed. We were to find a way out. Together.
Mireille's jaw tightened. Her eyes glimmered silver gray, twin shards of frost. The sapphire at her throat throbbed with an inner light.
You always clung to hope. But hope is a luxury in this house.
A gust swept through the passage, snuffing the lamp and plunging them into near blackness. Candle flames withered, shadows writhed. The sorcerer raised his hand, silver ring flashing, and a low, guttural chant filled the air. Syllables that seemed to gnaw at the stone. The temperature plummeted. Frost rained from the ceiling, dusting Elias's shoulders. He spun, searching for an exit, breath misting in frantic clouds.
Mireille, please, you don't have to do this. I'm your brother.
That's precisely why it must be you. Blood answers blood. Elias, the curse demands a price.
Her voice fractured. For a moment, pain eclipsed calculation. Then the sorcerer's chant rose, layering over her words, weaving shadows into substance. Elias's scream split the chamber. Ragged, raw, an animal sound. The salt rings ignited, blue fire racing around him, sealing his fate. Shadows crawled up his body, twisting into tendrils. Mireille flinched, but did not look away. Above them, in the great hall, Lucian straightened, senses burning. A pressure crushed his skull. The ancient magic shuddered, flooding through every crack in the stone. A thunderous tremor rippled through the castle. Portraits rattled, glass shattered. Somewhere, Seraphina staggered, clutching her marked wrist, feeling the surge, a rawness so deep it scoured the bones. Below, the sorcerer's voice reached its zenith, a note both triumphant and hungry. Mireille's pendant blazed, casting her face an unearthly blue. Elias's silhouette contorted, limbs jerking, mouth stretched in a silent, desperate plea.
Forgive me, Elias.
His cry was abruptly cut off, swallowed by the shadows. All that remained was the scent of scorched parchment and the bitter tang of ancient magic unleashed. In the sudden silence, Mireille staggered, clutching the pendant, her breath ragged. The sorcerer stepped closer, shadows curling around his ankles.
The oath is sundered. The bloodline is altered. Now we see what rises from the ruin.
Upstairs, Lucian's fists clenched. The moonlight that spilled through the broken window was stained a sickly violet. The very stones of Wolfsbane Court seemed to tremble, as if aware that something irrevocable had been set loose. Far below, the circle of salt still burned, empty. The castle's silence was absolute, broken only by the fading echo of Elias's scream. Thunder fractured the sky above Wolfsbane Court, shuddering through ancient stones. Glass rattled in their leaded frames. The wind screamed, twisting around the towers, slamming rain against the windows in frantic bursts. Everything in the castle felt stretched to its breaking point. Tapestries billowed, candle flames guttered and died. Shadows crawled along the corridor walls. Seraphina stood in the ruined gallery, cloak clutched tight, her silver ring pressed a crescent into her skin. Lightning revealed her reflection in the cracked glass. Pale, wild-eyed, the cursed sigil scrawled in bruised lines on her wrist. The air was electric, thick with ozone and panic, the taste of copper on her tongue. Somewhere above, a howl tore through the storm. Not wolf, not human. Something was coming undone. She ran. Her feet slapped marble, boots skidding on slick stone as she raced for the west wing. Every echo chased her. Impossible to tell what was real. A door banged open at the end of the hallway. Lucian staggered through. No, not Lucian. His shoulders twisted wrong, coat shredded, eyes gold and glistening and not wholly sane. Rain plastered black hair to his forehead. He was halfway between man and wolf. Every muscle bunched beneath skin that flickered with shifting fur.
Get away.
His voice, ragged, inhuman, lost. Something ferocious hunted behind it.
Lucian, listen to me.
No. I said go.
He lurched forward, claws digging furrows into the floor, his teeth bared, lips curled back in a snarl. Seraphina's mind screamed at her to run, but her legs refused. Not yet. Rain crashed through a shattered pane, streaking her cheek with icy needles.
You promised. You said you could control it.
He raised his head, the smell of iron, wildness, fear. His eyes flickered. A moment of recognition drowned beneath the beast. The wolf surged, slamming him into the wall. Plaster crumbled, dust choking the air.
Can't stop.
He lunged. Seraphina was weightless, thrown onto the cold flagstones. His claws pinned her. She stared into his face. Not Lucian's. Not anymore. Fangs glinted inches from her throat. Every instinct told her to scream, to beg, but all she could do was whisper.
If you kill me, you lose too. Please, Lucian, fight it. Don't let him win.
The storm outside shrieked louder, as if summoned by her terror. The castle itself seemed to recoil. For a heartbeat, nothing but frantic breathing. His and hers, tangled. Hot breath ghosted across her skin. The sigil on her wrist flared, searing hot, echoing the wildness in his eyes.
Seraphina, I am not myself.
His claws trembled against her skin. A low, guttural sound. Not quite a whimper, not quite a growl. He pressed closer, and for an instant, the monster's shadow flickered. Fingers, not claws, brushed her cheek.
Run while you can.
She shook her head, tears streaking her face, stormwater mingling with them.
No, I won't leave you. If you want my blood, take it. But I know you. You're stronger than this curse. I won't let you go alone.
He recoiled as if struck, claws retracting. The transformation stuttered. Fur faded, skin reasserted itself in patches. Lucian's eyes squeezed shut. The struggle bathed the corridor in agony. From the archway, a voice, calm, brittle.
Seraphina, move.
She didn't. Lucian's body convulsed. A last violent shudder. He collapsed onto her massive frame, pinning her. His breathing thundered in her ear. She braced for the end, cold stone pressing her spine. But then, silence. The rain outside softened, a lull in the fury. Lucian's weight lifted. He knelt above her, hands shaking, blood seeping from scratches on his arms where claws had torn his own flesh. His chest heaved, his eyes, amber and wet with shame, met hers.
I almost killed you.
But you didn't. You stopped. That means it isn't hopeless, Lucian.
He flinched at her defiance, tears glittering on her lashes. His reply was a broken whisper.
You should fear me.
She reached for his hand, her touch icy, certain.
I refuse.
Thunder rolled again, but in the charged quiet, something shifted. A bond forged, not by magic, but by choice. Both trembling, both marked. Far below, the castle doors groaned open on their hinges. A figure in a hooded black robe stepped through moonlit rain, silver runes glimmering along his sleeves. The unknown sorcerer had arrived. The scent of storm-wet earth flooded the shattered gallery, and the curse's shadow deepened. Moonlight, cold and ghostly, pooled on fractured glass. The ritual chamber reeked of bitter herbs and old secrets. Tang of iron, the sting of burnt sage hanging thick. Shadows crowded at the edges, pressed in like specters waiting for final judgment. Seraphina's fingers trembled as she traced the jagged rim of the broken mirror. Silver veins spiderwebbed across her reflection, splitting her face into 100 haunted fragments. The cursed sigil on her wrist throbbed, rhythmic and merciless. Lucian stood beside her, broad shoulders rigid, gloved hands balled into fists at his side. His amber eyes, wild fever bright, flickered between Seraphina and the mirror. The wolf inside him clawed just beneath the surface, desperate, half mad.
I'm not afraid of what I'll see.
Her voice cracked, barely louder than the wind leaking through broken panes. Lucian flinched at the defiance in her tone.
You should be. This magic, it feeds on truth, on what we can't bear to face.
A hush, heavy and cold, settled over them. Only the drip, drip, drip of wax from guttering candles marked the passage of time.
Then let it feed. I'm finished hiding.
She bared her wrist, pressing it against the mirror's largest shard. The sigil pulsed, bleeding silver light into the glass. The surface boiled and twisted, voices whispering inside the cracks.
Stop. If you do this, there's no going back.
There's nothing left behind me.
Her confession hung in the air, raw and aching. Lucian's jaw clenched, the scar across his cheek pale as ashes. He dragged off his glove, pressed his bare palm beside hers. Their hands aligned, skin to skin, reflected in a shivering web of moonlight and shadow.
I killed Ren. I remember every moment. I see it every night. I carry it with me, and I can't let it go.
The admission burned between them. The mirror shuddered. A hairline crack snaked outward, splitting Lucian's reflection down the center.
But damn me, I can't lose you too.
His voice broke. The wolf's hunger and the man's longing collided, desperate and exposed.
You won't. Not unless you run from this.
She leaned into him, her breath fanning cool across his jaw. For a heartbeat, the curse coiled tighter, squeezing the air from the room. Then the sigil blazed, brighter than before. Silver surged along the cracks. The shards rang discordant and terrible, as if the whole castle was splintering. Images flickered in the glass. Mireille's cold stare, Elias's ink-stained hands, the sorcerer's violet eyes, all their ghosts, watching.
Say it. Whatever truth this curse demands. Say it, Seraphina.
I love you, not in spite of your shadow, but because I see the man beneath it. I choose you, Lucian, curse, and all.
The mirror howled, wind shrieking through fractured panes. Seraphina clung to Lucian as the chamber trembled, candle flames flattening out, blue and spectral. For a single impossible moment, Seraphina glimpsed herself whole in the glass. No sigil, no fracture, just herself. The image flickered, threatened to vanish. Then the light snapped. and the mirror shattered, sending silver dust swirling through the moonlit air. A hush fell over the shattered great hall. Morning pressed through the stained glass painting the stones with fractured color. Smoke still clung to the rafters, sharp and metallic on the tongue. Remnants of the night's violence. Seraphina swayed. One hand pressed to her wrist. The mark, that cursed sigil, shimmered, then unraveled like frost melting from glass. The pain that had lived there for so long vanished. For the first time in years, her skin was only hers. Across from her, Lucian staggered, his eyes, those wild feral golds, dulled to warm amber. The monstrous strength drained from his limbs, leaving him just a man, battered, trembling, alive. He reached for her, then hesitated, as if afraid she might shatter.
Is it truly over?
Her voice sounded small, uncertain beneath the echo of collapsing magic.
I feel free, lighter. Can you breathe?
She nodded, tears gleaming along her cheekbones. The air tasted different, cleaner, almost sweet, laced with the scent of rain and distant pine. A figure collapsed to the mosaic floor. Lady Mireille, her fine gown ruined, eyes wild with disbelief, hands clawing at nothing. The power that always clung to her, gone. She seemed smaller now, lost without her illusions.
You fools! You have no idea what you've unleashed. This piece is a dream. You'll wake to something worse.
Elias stepped from the shadows, ink-stained fingers trembling. He fixed Mireille with a look that was almost pity.
Dream or not, your reign ends here. You'll leave Wolfsbane Court a shadow, or not at all.
Mireille's protest died on her tongue. Guards seized her arms. The sound of her heels scraping the stone echoed long after she was gone. Lucian stood before Seraphina, uncertain. The space between them crackled with memories. Rage, grief, longing. He reached out, gloved hand shaking, then stopped.
I don't know how to begin again.
Her laughter was raw, broken, the first true sound since the curse broke.
Then let's just begin, together.
She leaned in, lips brushing his, hesitant, real. He melted into her, all the years of pain twisting into something gentle. For a breath, the storm outside quieted. Only their heartbeats, matched and fragile, filled the world. Beyond the ruined hall, a cold wind snaked through the broken windows. In the far shadow, a figure watched, violet eyes gleaming, robe shifting like mist. The unknown sorcerer smiled, his voice a whisper lost in the dawn. The piece held, brittle as new ice. A lantern guttered in the midnight gloom, casting twisted shadows along ancient stones slick with rain. Beyond the crumbling walls of Wolfsbane Court, the world felt colder, haunted. Tonight, in the ruins of an old abbey deep within the Black Forest, a clandestine council gathered beneath sagging arches, veiled in ivy. Elias stood apart from the others, spectacles fogged, fingers stained with ink and uncertainty. The blue brocade of his waistcoat looked out of place in the decayed grandeur, but his sharp aquamarine eyes missed nothing. Lady Mireille waited in the heart of the nave, her silver gown dulled by the hush of moonlight, her posture rigid as a blade. Her face, once unblemished, now bore a thin scar across her cheekbone, a souvenir from the night the curse shattered and everything changed. Rainwater dripped from the eaves, pooling at her feet. She watched the cloaked newcomer step from the shadows. His robe shimmered faintly with runes. His violet eyes reflected the candle's flame, though the rest of his face was lost in darkness.
You are late.
A silence thickened between them, broken only by the distant cry of a night bird.
Power comes to those who wait, Lady Mireille. Even the fallen must learn patience.
She pressed a gloved hand to the scar on her cheek, voice tight.
I have waited long enough. Seraphina and Lucian, they bask in their fragile joy, as if the past can be so easily buried.
Elias cleared his throat, the sound echoing oddly.
You said this alliance would restore balance, yet all I feel is rot. Wolves prowl the court, yes, but now it is the shadows that hunt.
The sorcerer turned, the hem of his robe whispering like wind through bones.
Balance is a matter of perspective. What was taken from me will be returned, with your help and hers.
His attention bore into Mireille. She lifted her chin, defiance glinting behind her pallor.
I do not want redemption. I want them ruined. I want their peace shattered, as mine was.
He extended a hidden hand. A ripple of cold passed through the very air.
Then, a pact. Lady Mireille, my magic for your loyalty, your knowledge for my retribution. Wolfsbane Court will fall, stone by stone, secret by secret, if you dare.
Mireille hesitated. The abbey trembled with hush, as if the stones themselves recalled old vows.
And if you fail, what then?
The sorcerer's smile was barely visible, thin, predatory.
Failure is not permitted in shadows. Only debts, only consequences.
Rain intensified, drumming against shattered glass. Mireille stepped forward, her silhouette stark against the candle's glow. She placed her hand in the sorcerer's, the contact invisible, but its effect immediate. The runes on his sleeve shimmered and crawled like living silver.
I swear it. Seraphina will bleed for what she cost me. And Lucian, he will beg for mercy he never gave.
The pact sealed, the sorcerer withdrew, his footsteps soundless as mist. Elias lingered, uncertain.
This path leads nowhere good. You know that, Mireille.
She didn't answer, her eyes fixed on the darkness where their new ally had vanished. Far from the ruined abbey, in the uppermost tower of Wolfsbane Court, Seraphina twined her fingers with Lucian's, both of them framed in new dawn's light. Laughter echoed softly, as fleeting as hope. Back in the forest, Mireille's voice broke the silence, low, fervent.
Let them rejoice while they can. Their story is not yet done.
A serpent-shaped mark, burning silver, glimmered on her palm as the first howl rose from the trees. Dawn, for the first time in years, crested above the black iron spires of Wolfsbane Court, gilding the broken stone with pale gold. The air shimmered with the scent of damp earth and rain mingling with the ghost of ashes. In the rebuilt West Tower, glass panes caught the light, fractured, but no longer haunted. Seraphina stood beside Lucian on the frost-laced balcony. The velvet of her cloak brushed his sleeve as she stared across the waking grounds. Once, this place had pressed on her like a tomb. Now, for a moment, it felt almost alive. Far below, workers' laughter drifted up like the memory of music, scattering the last shadows from the flagstones.
Do you remember the night you nearly tore down these walls?
Lucian's gloved hand closed quietly over the stone rail. The scar on his cheek caught the sun, a pale line against the darkness.
I remember I wanted to forget everything. Now.
He searched for words, but none seemed worthy of the fragile hope hanging in the air. Miniarch, Seraphina's question draws the past into the fresh dawn, inviting vulnerability. Lucian's silence lingers, then resolves in a rare admission.
Now we begin again. No curses, no lies.
He turned to her. In his eyes flickered longing and fear. It was a look she knew well, but not the same as before. This was a new uncertainty, hope edged with dread.
Together then. If you'll have me, Seraphina.
She smiled, a soft exhale of relief and promise. Her fingers found his, cold from the night air, but real, and hers. The castle felt lighter. Even within its ancient stones, something unseen loosened its grip. Mini-arc. As hope blooms, a new uncertainty is seeded by the world's fragility. Far below, a bell tolled, out of place in the morning stillness. Footsteps echoed up the stairwell, brisk and uneven. The door swung open, and Elias appeared, ink still wet on his cuffs, spectacles fogged from haste.
A message, addressed to the Duchess, sealed in blood.
He held out a letter, the parchment dark and spattered, the crimson wax stamped with a serpent coiling through a crown. A chill threaded through the warm light. Seraphina took the letter. It felt like ice in her palm. The wax bled into her skin, the cursed sigil on her wrist burning faintly, as if recognizing a kin. Mini-arc, uncertainty sharpens. The peace fractures. The letter is not merely a threat, it is a summons. She broke the seal. Inside, elegant script crawled across the page, inked in scarlet.
I trust you have relished your fleeting dawn. The veil between us remains. When the moon next bleeds, you will know my will.
The courtyard seemed to darken, morning paling beneath an unseen cloud. Lucian moved instinctively to shield her, but she stood unflinching, meeting the horizon with steady eyes. The wolf's curse was undone, but in the ruins of blessing, a new shadow stirred. Seraphina looked down at the seal's mark, crimson against her palm. As the bell tolled again, a second letter slid beneath the door, this one addressed to Elias. Its wax a deep violet. And with that, our story draws to a close. Thank you for walking alongside Seraphina, Lucian, and the haunted halls of Wolfsbane Court. If these shadows gripped you, or a moment lingered in your mind, please subscribe and tell me in the comments which chapter left its mark on you. Until our next midnight tale, farewell, traveler.